If you're hearing that in your background of your songs, you've got your input gain set too loud. So someone was asking about vocals before, and one of the things that I hear with vocals that is probably the biggest challenge that folks have with recording vocals is getting the level right going in. Get it right at the source. You know, Joe Gilder on Home Studio Corner has been saying that for decade plus now, but getting it right at the source is so important. And the one thing that I see folks do wrong, or not wrong, but that I think impacts their actual performance is their input gain. Now, because I'm plugged into an audio interface here, I can't adjust my input gain here. It's grayed out. In fact, if I unplug, let's just see, if I unplug my audio interface, will I get this back? There we go. Using AirPlay, yes. So now I can adjust this. So if I was using the built-in microphone to record here, this is my input gain. So if I had it here and I was singing A, B, C, D, E, F, G, that's the great alphabet song. See where that's peaking? It's peaking right around 50 to 75%. If I turn it up to here, look where it's peaking now. It's hitting 100. See that little orange line? That means I'm way too loud. And if I sing A, B, C, D, then it's going to be way too crispy and peaky. Same thing goes down here. If I have it down here, it's barely even noticing. Look, it's barely even registering that anything's there. So setting your input gain is super important. And the golden rule that I've used with input gain over the years that's worked the best is set it so that your level, see, that's too high, so that your level is hitting between 50% and 75%, so that when you're singing, let's sing the alphabet song, see, that's too loud. You got to bring it on down. Let's sing that alphabet song. That's about right because it's peaking between 50 and 75%. That means you're going to get a healthy signal through. You're going to get a signal that looks a little bit like that, and it's not all about what it looks like, but that gives you a bit of an indication. So you're going to get a decent, healthy signal. See, look at this bass. This bass was recorded with the input gain too low. And bass guitar in particular, you often need to crank up your input gain to make sure that your bass guitar cuts through, because your bass is a quieter instrument by nature and it's using lower frequencies. It's not going to cut through. So I should have turned my input gain up to record this bass. These vocals might even be a little bit loud. These guitars, this one here is probably just about right. That's just the sort of waveform that you'd be looking for, so that you've got a nice healthy waveform. It's definitely not clipping, but you're not recording too low. The disadvantages, so recording too high, if you clip, you can't fix it. Digital clipping is terrible. If you see those big square waveforms, that's clipping, digital clipping, and you can't fix it. Doesn't matter what you do in the mix, you can't fix it. Please just go back, turn down your input gain, and re-record it. If it's too low, you can use some other tips. You can merge it here in GarageBand, you can turn up the volume, and it might be okay. But keep in mind that you're turning up the noise floor as well as the sound. So if you want to make sure that you're not getting as much noise in there, you're getting better quality recordings. And for our friend that asked about vocals before, this is particularly the case for vocals. You want to find that range. Now, if you're listening and you're using an audio interface, I was going to try and pick it up, but it's ingrained here. Imagine I'm holding my Steinberg UI22C. You're going to use the input gain knob on that one. So again, the reason that now that I've plugged this back in, that this one is yellow, is that this is now controlled by the input gain knob. So that's what we'll be using to get our input gain dialed in, dial it into the right level and record it. Now what you're listening for, if you've ever done this before, is you're listening. In fact, can we hear it if we do this? If we turn the monitor on, yeah, you can really faintly hear it. I'll turn up the volume of the iPad here and I'll be quiet and I'll turn the input gain all the way up. Can you hear that? That's the noise floor. That's when people say, I get a lot of hiss in my vocals. Well, that's probably because your input gain is way too high. If we turn this down, take a listen. It all but goes away. We're still getting, so now I'm at like about 2/3 of my input gain, but that noise floor is gone. If we turn it all the way down, well, there's zero noise, but we're not going to get a good enough signal. So again, if you're hearing that in your background of your songs, you've got your input gain set too loud. It's a simple one, but I wanted to cover it here because it's probably the number one thing I hear that's going to reduce the quality of your home recordings, especially if you're in an environment like I am here that is not well treated and doesn't have all the things that you may need to get a quiet sound.